I will apologise if sirens are going on in the background. I think there's a grass fire a few fields over.
Oh,
So
okay.
I
I
think we're
can't
about
hear
to.
them. So there's only the only fire here, John, is happening in my attic where I'm currently sat. It's about 1,000 degrees.
Okay,
So
I thought you were going to say something saucy then.
I was going to say the fire in my pants.
Well, we've got the introduction for the show, so that's good.
This is Sheer Isolation. It's presented by Kieran Moore in Trowbridge and John Ponting in Cricklade.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is Sheer Isolation. Thanks for listening. I am John in Cricklade. Kieran is in Trowbridge in his loft with a very fancy new background, might I say.
Yes, it's the Village Pump logo.
For people who don't know, the Village Pump is a venue that you manage yourself now, and it's been quite a big renovation over the last fair few months or so, and you're nearly there.
Nearly there. I think when you own a place, a bit like owning a house, you never really finish. There's always something else. But we've got to a point where it's happy with the presentation and all the other bits we can do in time. So yeah, we're there.
So the purpose of this show is to promote and highlight the local music and art scene. And in the next half hour, we will play a couple of tunes and we will be talking to a guest. Kieran, you've found us an absolutely fascinating chap to talk to this week. It's Danny Kitainik from Serenity Audio. He's lived a life, hasn't he? He's been... I don't know where to start with it, but yeah, it's a really interesting listen. So,
He's done quadraphonic sound in churches. He's done Main Road in Manchester with all the baggy scene. He's done London. He's done Russia, World Cups. He's done all sorts.
have you had any gigs this week, Kieran? If you haven't, I've got a lot to talk about today.
Oh, have you? I'm just trying to think. The weekend we had Steve Wickham from the Waterboys, and he was absolutely wonderful and charming and lovely. The gig was a roaring success, and that's pretty much all I've got to say about it. Tell me all your news.
Okay. Well, have you ever been to an event that was so good you then went again? I suppose it's difficult being a sound man because you're contracted and obliged to attend the same gig night after night after night. But as a punter, have you ever done that?
I've been to like a band who've been on tour, and I've done like 6 dates in the Southwest, and I've done like 2 or 3 of them. But I wouldn't say I've gone not knowingly how good it was going to be, then gone the next night. No, I've never done that.
Yeah, so this is going to make me out to be a proper nerd of the Great British Bake Off. But somebody has created a musical and it was on for 2 weeks in Cheltenham, and I went on the Monday night and then I took a load of friends on the final night, which was the Saturday night, because it was that good.
The Great British Bake Off musical.
It sounds like it could be very bad and cheesy, but it is genuinely a properly thought out musical with some amazing songs and some incredible parodies. And it was actually written with the backing of the TV producers.
Okay, wow. I mean, that's not what I was expecting when I logged in today. So there's one for me to do some research on YouTube.
Time for a tune. Yes. I get to pick this week. Previous guest on the show, Seth By. We're going back probably about 18 months ago. When we spoke to Seth, he was part of the band at Gifford Circus.
Oh, yes.
Now, this year, he's not part of the band. He's gone off to work on other projects. I recently found out that this other project is that he's now part of a band called The Destroyers, who are a Birmingham 12-piece. They've been around for a good couple of decades. They play that kind of music we absolutely love, Kieran, that Baltic, Celtic, crossover, like hard-stringed folk, you know?
You're talking my language.
Yeah. And I discovered this when he posted a little humble post online just mentioning that the Destroyers just happened to be opening the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham.
Like you do.
Yeah. This particular track is called Hangar Hunger. Gotta love that. That is Hangar Hunger. It's from the Destroyers, band who opened Commonwealth Games this year in Birmingham, and Seth was a previous guest when he was part of the Gifford Circus touring band.
Top man. Hangar Hunger.
I'm not sure if there's a meaning to that or if it just sounds good. Maybe
It just sounds
maybe
good,
it's
I'm sure.
onomatopoeic, maybe.
Yeah. And what I love about them as well, they've got those the sousaphone style brass section. I love a sousaphone.
Yeah.
Great.
There's some really nice, kind of traditional, old-fashioned style instruments in there. I'm going to move on to product placement, Kieran. It's been a long time since you've actually displayed something.
I don't have anything ready, John. It's all downstairs.
But have you bought any tracks or have you bought any albums recently?
Yeah, I picked up a record by a lady, and I'll just find her name because I want to make sure I get it right.
Is this the Found Sound lady you've spoken about before?
Cassandra Jenkins. I've obviously got a thing with the surname Jenkins because I love Tom Jenkins. Cassandra Jenkins, no relation. She's American. She's kind of really bizarre found sounds mixed with like really light blues. She's absolutely brilliant. So mesmerizing musically.
Okay, yeah, that is definitely a name I'm going to check out. I'm intrigued to listen to this music that you have found. Where did you find this?
So I was looking up at a festival trying to figure out what bands I could nick for warm-ups. And for some reason, I really liked what they'd written about her. I read the profile and I thought, that sounds interesting. So I hit play on Spotify and I was like, or no, on YouTube. And I was like, yes. I love the fact that a simple paragraph on a website actually can sell tickets or drive sales or whatever.
Yeah, you've just also put a little top tip out there for any musicians who are trying to get themselves heard. Have a decent synopsis on your social networks and don't just write band from Bath.
Oh God, please write a synopsis.
Don't be clever. Actually give a description.
Write who your members' names are as well, because actually a lot of people like to know who's in the band, or it makes it a darn sight easier to find individual members to contact members and what your DNA is, like what instruments they play, so that I can guess what a tech spec might be. You know what I mean? Just stuff like that. More information, the better, actually. Anyway, have we got to news yet? Let's get to news. Let's skip to the news section.
No, we're gonna do the interview.
Oh, okay.
You can do the news in a minute. But we do need to go over to the interview, which is a guy called Danny Kitainik, who runs a company called Serenity Audio.
Based just outside Chippenham.
In a way, he's kind of winding down, and the studio itself, he's just not using it publicly and shouting too much about it. But his history and what he's been doing in the past was just fascinating to talk to him about it. So we'll just crack on with the interview and just have a listen to this. It very, very reminiscent to when we spoke to Brian Keane, and Brian was telling us about all his old days being the sound guy in the 70s and 80s and all those tales that you hear about. And I felt there was a lot of similarity with what Danny talks about.
Well, Serenity Audio is kind of the child of many, many years of being in the industry, working primarily for other people, other companies, other production companies. And I always have this vision of owning my own production company, and that's the birth of Serenity Audio. My passion is live sound, and I know that comes with it. And I've been doing that since a very, very early age, probably 16, 17. I'm 64 now, so I have a few years.
Well, I was going to suggest you've only been doing it for 10 years, clearly. So
yeah, but Serenity Audio is in its current format is about 5-6 years.
How did you get into it? Did you study sound and acoustics in education?
So I need to give credit to my brother, who is 14 years older than me. He's an electronic engineer. My background is electronic engineer. And as a present, when I was, I think, 11 or 12, he gave me a soldering iron and a multimeter, and he got me to his workshop to repair valve amplifiers, and that's how I started my passion for electronics. And that developed into electronics for audio. He was designing and manufacturing consoles, mixing desks, and slowly I got into that. When I came to this country, the first thing I did was to try and find a way of staying here, and I enrolled myself into School of Audio Engineering, which I ended up teaching there, funny enough. So they opened the path for me to kind of getting into the industry. And then, to cut a very long story short, I ended up working for a company called Encore. Encore nowadays, at the time, was a very small kind of production company based in Camden Town in London. I ended up being the sound engineer and the sound designer, system designer for many of the clubs in London. Dingwalls was primarily one. The Borderline, Break for the Border, venues in Brixton, pretty much every venue in the West End. I had my hands on the Astoria, and the list goes on and on and on. So I ended up not just installing the system, but also operating them.
So at that time in West London, the music scene was just booming, all kinds of influences.
Exactly.
And it was kind of
that was the 1980s, which was a fantastic time to join this fantastic industry. One of my first tour was with Simple Minds, and then I ended up doing the Happy Mondays and Toto and D Lang and Curtis Mayfield, and the names goes on and on. I can't remember all the names I've done in that particular time of my life. It was good.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was really nice.
So how did that suddenly happen? Because obviously you've done a lot of, as you mentioned, you've done all your kind of electrical engineering and you've worked through to doing sound and acoustics. How did you suddenly end up going on tour with such a big long list of big 80s bands?
I guess it was being the right place in the right time. Then was obviously opened a big door to me because lots of artists were coming there. Dingwalls, I'm not sure how much you know about that club, but in the 80s was the club in London. Lots of the tours used to start there as a warm-up gig. Promoters or VIPs used to before the tours used to meet there. So it was a very good venue to be. And then the company I work with, Encore, they grew exponentially. And at the time, they have one of the biggest sound systems, Martin sound systems in London and in the UK. And the rest of history. I mean, the company grew because I was there. I grew with the company. And because I had the background of electronic engineering and acoustic engineering, I was an asset to all these companies to go on tour. Because I can fix things and not just operate them.
So I guess you were doing that for what, but 10, 15 years maybe before you decided to settle down, or was there another something else in between?
Around the year 2000, I got associated with an American company called Apogee Sound. And one of my latest installation or last installation was the sound equipment for the Lion King in the Lyceum in London. So that was I provided all the sound system for that. And at that point, the American company went bust in America. And I don't know why, what hit me, I decided to take a break from sound engineering and went into IT. And I went into IT for 10 years.
I expect that was an advantage because in that time, sound desks have merged into computers, into laptops.
Correct. And that is exactly what happened because apart from having the knowledge of electronic engineering and acoustic engineering and sound engineering, I now have the IT knowledge of networking. And after 10 years, the company I was working for, they were in Bath. I was based in London. I was commuting Bath, London. And eventually we moved to the countryside. We moved to where we are now. And 5 years later, the company grew exponentially again and through acquisition. And 3 of us ended up doing the same job. One of us needed to go, and I put my hands up and I said, I'm going to go back to what I love most, where my passion is.
Cool. Well, we should probably talk a bit about Serenity Audio because you're sat in front of all your equipment right now. So you do a lot of live session recordings. What kind of music? What kind of sounds are you?
So the studio, I set up the studio about 7 years ago as a toy. Spending, because I was in IT, I wanted to spend time here. My kids are musicians, and I decided I will give them the tools to do whatever they want and at home. And I enjoy being here and playing around with kids, with DAWs, and I'm producing things. Although my kids kind of, especially my son, he way much better than me nowadays. But yes, it's a nice environment to be here. It's a hobby as much as a job.
I think we'll just rewind back to, well, that classes, the heyday when you were going off on tour with all these musicians. Is it rude to ask if you had particularly favorite band or a favorite tour or a particular story that comes to mind?
Tick, 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 all of the three, all of the above. Okay, so favorite artist has to be D Lang. It was a pleasure working with that lady, and even if I already was an established sound engineer, I learned a lot from her and because she came with a sound engineer, but he let me do the sound. So I think that's D Lang is definitely one of my best artists that I work with. Toto was a great experience. Obviously, I love their music, so it was great to be with them. I wasn't with them as capacity of sound engineer. I was a system engineer. But the best story, I have to kind of smile, is we did what is called now the Lead Festival. It was Happy Mondays were headlining, and there was Last, and there was all sorts of bands. And for that, Encore was doing that with another company, and they put together the largest PA system of the day. Every single box of Martin F2 system was in that stadium. It was a phenomenal exercise. For I think the setup took us all more than a week. Those were the days before line arrays. So it was scaffolding building. There was 3-story scaffolding, and you see people climbing on the scaffolding and holding speakers, taking them to the top. But to cut a long story short, I was in charge of all the cabling, and I was in charge of the technical stuff. And we were a day ahead of the sound check, but somebody did a mistake with the cabling of the generators. Two cables were reversed, face and earth. And what happened is that when they switch on the system without my approval, pretty much half a stage blew up. Literally, there was smoke coming from the left side of the stage. And it wasn't a very nice moment. We were ahead of schedule. Luckily enough, being a sound engineer and an electronic engineer, I always carry my toolkits with me, my test equipment with me, and I work overnight from all the equipment I had. I managed to fix the front of the stage. We didn't have the delay towers at that point, but at least we were ready for a sound check on time.
And the Happy Mondays got to play after all.
And
they wouldn't have played without you.
The whole thing carried on as normal. And actually, there was a magazine called Live Music, and they quoted that they put me, and it says the hero of the hour. So I think that is my best story.
Oh, but yeah, but tell us about the other stuff you do, because it's not just music you do, is it?
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, I did the World Cup as well.
What were you doing at the World Cup? Because it was audio again, wasn't it?
Yes, I was. So in the World Cup, I was in charge of the communication system and the broadcast for the VAR system in Sochi. I think I have six matches. Each match has got like 2 days preparation. So it's a lot of work going on, making sure that the coverage on every single square meter of the pitch is working.
Wow, I mean, that's quite an undertaking.
Yes, it was scary, I must say. I did big things in the past, but suddenly to be there and you have all the FIFA officials looking at you, and I was the only person there. doing so. Any fault that the VAR will have is on my head, on my shoulder. So yeah, it was very.
But you didn't have any problems, and all the goals stood, so it's all fine.
No, it's all fine. It was very funny because my first language is Spanish, and most of the referees, they were Spanish or Spanish speaking. So it was very funny because I needed to listen to what they say. So it was very funny to listen to some of the comments they have about some players. I won't go into details for obvious reasons. But it was very interesting. It was very interesting.
Do you want to explain which song you've chosen and why you've chosen it?
Okay, so I've chosen Pink Skies. Is by Amy Kay, which incidentally is my daughter, but that's not the reason why I chose it. I chose it because there is a nice story behind it. It was done here in the house. Pink Sky was the result of one lovely evening during lockdown that the skies were pink. And my daughter got into the studio with Leo, my son, and they wrote the song, and he produced it. Leo plays most of the instruments in that. And I think it's a lovely song that represents a lot of what happened during lockdown and being at home and being nostalgic. And I think a lot of the experience that many of us had during lockdown.
I've been filling my head with silence.
the tune we've just played there. That is Danny's choice. It's the artist is Amy Kay, and the track there is Pink Skies.
Magnificent.
Right, we have got some news. You said you had some exciting news to talk about, so I'll let you go.
Well, so 2000 Trees today have announced the Axiom headliner. They've announced the headliner at Trees, not the main stage, but the Axiom, which for all intents and purposes, because of the nature of the band, I don't care who else is playing the rest of the festival all weekend, because they've booked the one band I've wanted to see for years. It's a band called Rival Schools, and I am absolutely tickled pink. I'm so excited. The fact that they're playing is just blowing my mind, and I'm so excited. I don't care about anything else now. I'm there for them. That's it. Problem solved.
This gig is 11 months away. You are that excited.
I'm already excited. And I bought my ticket already. So I'm literally like, I've got my ticket already. I've got my ticket already. I'm so excited.
I'm going to talk about another previous guest that we've had on Sheer Isolation, Florence Espuit Nicholas.
Oh, okay. Go for it.
So I can't remember when we spoke to her, but it was probably about 6 or 9 months ago, something like that.
Before Christmas. Yeah, before Christmas. So yeah, God, it's August, isn't it? Yeah, my Lord.
She had created a kind of semi-autobiographical performance called Destiny, which was about growing up and life in Chippenham.
Yeah.
Well, okay. And the general Wiltshire area.
Yes.
And she's done other kind of performance and theatre work as well. I've just been reading that she has taken the Destiny show to the Edinburgh Fringe. So she's currently in Edinburgh and she's performing it there. So well done to her.
Yeah, she's an absolute talent, John. She's coming back to the Town Hall with Destiny later this year. But yeah, you're right. She's at the Fringe in Edinburgh. Incidentally, I've just been invited to work at the Fringe next year. So I might be having August off next year, John, and going to work spend a month in Scotland. So lots of haggis for me. Haggis and iron brew. Looking forward to it.
Book your Airbnb now because those places go quick.
Jesus. The prices. We're actually going to buy a camper van and we're going to just stay in a camper van for a month.
You can contact us by going to sheerisolation@gmail.com or find previous shows on sheerisolation.co.uk or your streaming service of choice. We will be back here same time next week. All right, Karen, I will leave you be, bud. Thank you for a very entertaining show. Speak to you next week.
Take care, my man. Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.